When I started saying William Ruto is not fit to be president of the Republic of Kenya, that was in 2022. I was in Azimio and I was campaigning for Raila Amolo Odinga. I have never changed my stand. In fact, when Raila was joining hands to work with William Ruto, some of us had a chance to say, excuse tunaingia na baba. We said no. I stood with very many people on this side of saying no to this administration. I can count for you with my whole fingers naziishe the number of people who've been bought since. And now they are singing songs that I didn't believe they would sing. Sisi wengine tumebaki. You think they don't know our address or they don't have our phone numbers? We have just been resolute about standing on the side of Mwananchi and refusing the threats, refusing the intimidation, refusing the money, and the offers are really good. Yeah, I have seen some of them now telling me, "Fanya mambo weka tu hapo mjinga. Sasa nimenunua kaprado niko na niga." And I'm like, fine. Mimi naweza ishi nyumba ya mabati all my life if I have to. But I'm going to live with my integrity. So it is possible to tell. Just look at the last 5 years and see how many of them have flip-flopped. Unasikia ako huku, ako huku, ako huku. Fanya mambo has been consistent. One narrative, consistent throughout. To the point that Baba, who I supported so much, when he joined William Ruto, I drew the line and said, okay, Baba, sina vita na wewe. Lakini mwenye mumeshikana na yeye, I cannot continue. So we will find such people. Someone has said something which I must respect. One of the persons on the comments has said that 8 million Kenyans had a problem with the candidature of Baba and they had a problem with the candidature of Ruto. So they refused to vote in 2027. So again, I also agree there's a small disconnect somewhere that we need to also offer leaders that are worthy of the votes of people so that the voter turnout is good. Because sometimes Kenyans might look at the candidates who are going to be on the ballot and they're like, why should I even wake up? Let us give Kenyans candidates that would make them wake up in 2027. I think that is the main thing, especially the presidential candidate. Because those ones now, you saw, they rarely go through a nomination for presidential candidates. Those ones are picked. But for these other seats, it's possible for Mwananchi to actually decide who will be on the ballot, for MP, for senator, for governor, because parties will offer you nominations. But for the presidential candidate, we must make sure that there are men and women worthy of making people wake up at 4 a.m. Yeah.
How can you, or what constitutionally, we've understood that if the people of Kenya are dissatisfied with the way in which things are happening, that then it seems as though the answer or the solution to that is to then express this dissatisfaction when you go to the polls. Because if we look at it, when we study elections and we study election results, that Kenyans actually vote in an interesting manner. Kenyans don't necessarily vote in people, they vote out others. So the dissatisfaction that you feel comes and shows very clearly in the vote. Because if it were that you were voting in someone, usually the person that was supposed to come and save, then you would see that person in. But Kenyans have the practice of voting people out. And it seems as though if you brought in the person that you feel would then be able to do this, then perhaps you'd then be able to move. Can that be changed? And how would you see that actually happening? That then don't go to the ballot in anger and say, well, this hasn't worked and this hasn't worked, and I'm going to vote in anybody to come and do the thing. But say, this hasn't worked, and this is the person that I feel is going to then be able to do this. How does that change to flip the script?
I want to look at Kenyans in the face, and I want to tell them that the ballot is a repository of hope. The ballot is that one place where you take your dreams, you take your aspirations, you take your hopes, you take those things that you want that are good for tomorrow. The ballot is not a reservoir of makasiriko, hasira, fujo, kufuta mutu kazi. Because when you take anger to the ballot, the fact remains that you might as well reap the results of anger in a year or two. So let us see that ballot as that place when we close our eyes, it's a repository of hope. And we are putting in that ballot all the things that we feel are the correct things for this country moving forward. So I'd like to urge Kenyans that yes, we want an end to killings, to abductions, to anarchy, to risasi ya mguu, to disrespect of court orders. We want an end to these things. But more than an end, we want a beginning. And we want a beginning in meritocracy, in good leadership, in servant leadership, in respect for the rule of law, in constitutionalism, in appointments of people with merit, and so on and so forth. So beyond looking at the end, let us look at the beginning. Olkalau was a good sign. It was a good example to the nation. That money in 2027 is going to be rendered irrelevant. That those people who have been stocking up money, those people who've been saying nikifika nitanunua kila mtu, we are telling them that utakuja na pesa yako utapea wananchi. Alafu wanagawa kidogo. They go and give the candidate that they want. They actually give a candidate money and they vote for the right candidate. Number two, Olkalau has also shown us that we shall guard votes. Because one of the other things that makes us seem like we didn't vote well is the fact that the Kenyans voted well, but to some extent were not able to guard some votes. And in 2022, there are people who came in because Kenyans were not able to guard votes in certain specific places. Now we are seeing the example of Olkalau, and it's going to be replicated across the country, where Kenyans are saying, beyond casting our vote, we shall make sure that our vote counts, and we shall make sure that our votes are not stolen. So that tomorrow morning, we don't have the same terrible people laughing at us and saying, niliwanyorosha kwa uchaguzi, yet we know what happened. So we will not allow them the pleasure of coming to laugh at us and tell us niliwanyorosha, yet we know they stole from us. So those two things.
Nyamambo, the president seems to imagine that we're going to be having this conversation in the space of a new constitution. Constitution that was promulgated in 2010 is just, about 16 years old now in terms of schedules of implementation of the Constitution. Some of those are yet to be completed. Some of them have not even started. But seems to imagine that the road to 2060 then needs to be paved with the walls of a new Constitution.
Kenya does not need a new Constitution. Kenya needs a new president. So William Ruto, if you're uncomfortable with our Constitution, you're the one to go. Sisi tuko 50 million and we are okay with it. You alone, you are the one who is okay with it. So you leave us with our Constitution. I mean, who said he must be president? What we are telling William Ruto is simple. Please, if you feel that this Constitution is constraining you, resign as president. You don't have to be president. 50 million of us plus are okay with the Constitution. Why are you the one who wants to change it? Who told you we want it changed? When did you ever consult Kenyans and Kenyans told you that they have a problem with the Constitution? So Kenyans are telling you, Your Excellency William Ruto, kwa heshima na unyenyekevu, kama katiba yetu ambayo uliapishwa nayo imekushinda, please leave us alone. Resign, okay? Go, maybe you can govern another country that can change the Constitution the way it wants. But for us, as far as we are concerned as Kenyans, we are happy with our Constitution. By the way, when you took oath of office in 2022, you swore to protect this Constitution.
Yes.
Changing it is not protecting it. You know, coming and saying that you don't have to consult us is not protecting the Constitution. This country belongs to over 50 million Kenyans, and they are happy with the Constitution. The few people who are not happy with it, we have a few islands very close to Mombasa there. We can pick, because we can pick them and put them in that island. They just stay there, then so that way there they are not disturbed by the rest of us who are okay with it. So that you leave the bigger piece of the country to us who are comfortable with this Constitution. So we can create a small island to people who want zero constitutionalism, people who want anarchy. We just